welcome, Ambassador. We're gonna start in just a minute here. If you want to come
Terribly
over
sorry
here
I'm
this
so
way.
late.
That's totally fine. Okay, if you just want to follow me in here, Ambassador. That's your chair.
Ready in two.
Okay, so about the same as last year. They'll ask you questions just talking about your stuff. It's Gnome Christmas.
Ready on
Gnome
set.
Christmas?
Live in
What?
3.
Okay, is the ambassador ready? We're going.
Go.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Brad Bandersmash, your anchor and chair tonight, as we, at the very important, very respectable news network, take a look at the year that was 2024 with our panel of experts, who I will introduce you to now. Joining us from New York is our headline news reporter, Sally Sassy Pants.
Thank you for having me. It's wonderful to join you for Gnome Christmas.
And joining us remote from Prague, we have former Ambassador Andrew Kensington II.
Thank you for having me on your program, Brad.
And joining us is our culture and film critic, Jackson Moriarty.
Charmed.
The more astute audience members at home may have noticed that we're doing something special today. We have received word that we are frustratingly old-fashioned here at the very respectable news network, and so we're trying to make things a little bit more coagulated here tonight. And we are celebrating Gnome Christmas as we talk about our new year. So that's a little treat for our TikTok followers. All right. For our first topic today, we go to the ambassador. What do you have for us?
Well, some sad news, Brad. Just some few days hence, former president, the 39th president of the United States, Jimmy Carter, has passed away. He was age 100 at the time of his death, which makes him the longest living former president of any president. Back to you, Brad.
Yoinks! That reminds me of a time that me and President Carter met. I was driving down the road and the transmission went out of my truck. And who will pull over but Jimmy Carter himself. We spent some time together, but at the end he turned to me seriously and said, "I don't like the cut of your jib."
Yes, it was hard news to hear. He was so frumpy and precocious. We'll miss him.
And now for our next topic, back to the ambassador.
Well, Brad, as you know, this year we had an election in the United States, and it has been a right winkle picker.
Man, it's been a strange couple of months. The election, those UFO sightings above Jersey. It's probably all linked.
Every election year I think about this. It's Republican or Democrat. It's right or left. Really, it speaks to, I think, the duality of man.
I can tell you that night while we were covering the election, we were backstage in between takes eating eggplants and Nutella, and Lindsay Lohan came up to me and said at one point, and I'll never forget this, "Whoomp, there it is."
There have been a record number of elections around the world. England, India, France, replacing all sorts of good or bad leaders.
Yes, and in the same year that the Northern Lights are visible as far down as Texas, elections have spread all across the world. Poetic.
It's been a very busy year around the world. For example, I published my book.
And South Korea has had lots of political shenanigans with 2 presidential impeachments. I would love to hear your thoughts, Ambassador.
I once met President Yoon at Raising Cane's in Latvia. He had impeccable table manners. One might say he was very able.
They already impeached 2 of them, and now I hear they have another president. Some people just don't learn their lesson.
In another sordid twist for this year, the killing of the United Healthcare CEO, some man, by Luigi Mangione.
No, Karen, you can't talk to the CEO.
And when this hit the news, obviously the first thing that crossed my mind was, what does Jojo Siwa think about this?
I personally had the honor this summer of attending the Paris Olympics opening ceremony, and I must say it was magnifique, if a bit gauche.
The world descended on Paris this year, and not this time for a world war. No, it was the Paris Olympics.
I was so excited to be able to go to the Paris Olympics. Unfortunately, I booked the wrong date for October, but bonus, in the hotel lobby, I got a couple shot classes.
And next we have a real doggy of a story, and that is the ongoing wars this year in Ukraine and Gaza, which of course we covered last year, but they continue to plague our world. And it's a real blow for those who were hoping this year for world peace or to spend 2 weeks in Italy.
In my experience, this is the perfect time for something of a benefit concert, perhaps. Headlined by, perhaps one of my favorite artists, Pink or Britney Spears. Why, I'd even be able to donate some of the profits of my best-selling book, In Dire Straits, America at War.
Now we're going to take a look at a couple things that happened in the culture this year with our correspondent.
For fans of Sharknadoes 2, 3, or 6, I'd like to recommend this summer's blockbuster, Gladiator 2.
Saw this one with Zac Efron right before we went to a Taylor Swift concert.
Do you know what they call a quarter pounder with cheese in Paris?
Weird Al was such an interesting casting job in that movie.
Now, if you're a fan of hit NBC show Parks and Recreation, I'd recommend checking out A24's Civil War, directed by Alex Garland.
I saw this and I thought, why don't they make movies like they used to? Instead of making a movie about a civil war, a fictional civil war, what about Star Wars?
My favorite part was when Rory Cochrane started dancing.
It put me in the mind of a recent bout of Mario Party I had with my family. Bitter words were had.
And now a movie recommendation from our audience, Conclave, which came out just a couple months ago. And the one-word summary I have for this is brat. Now, I was watching this and I just thought, couldn't they get Jonathan Taylor Thomas for this?
I don't know, could have used more explosions.
What the film won't tell you about is the wild parties thrown by the Roman Curia in their post-conclave sessions.
Just 2 words. Cowabunga, dude!
Onto what is undoubtedly the biggest, most successful movie of the year, Megalopolis. Truly, it stirred the heart and slurried the mind of any fortunate viewer.
What were they speaking in that movie? Urdu?
I didn't have time to see the film. I was too busy writing my book.
I was watching and I just thought, Vivaldi would never have done the soundtrack for this.
Just 2 words. Cowabunga, dude!
And now for a movie that was very pretty and rather slippery, Alien Romulus.
Missy Elliott really nailed that soundtrack.
Now, I sat down to watch this movie with Sidney Poitier. He said that he had already seen it. Would you happen to know anything about that, Brad?
Now I watched this one, and I was between J-Lo and Sidney Poitier, and Sidney leaned over and he said, "If you spoke your mind, you'd be speechless."
As my dear friend Mario Draghi said upon watching the film, Mamma Mia!
And next on our list from our viewers is Inside Out 2, the family-friendly movie. It was like a hagfish went to Hollywood. Well, this was no Run Lola Run, but it was ingenious.
Didn't see the film.
My favorite character was Ennui.
I saw Joker, Folie à Deux, by myself at home in the dark. And yeah, that's about right.
Joker Foleado. More like Joker Foleadont.
Fall Guy was a perfect omnitheater showing. It was a blend of romance and comedy and romance. What do you think, Ambassador?
It reminds me of how my marriage is falling apart.
And a newer addition to this list, Wicked. I liked it better the first time when it was called Grapes of Wrath.
My only criticism is that it should have been longer and with more singing.
As my friends at Harvard would say, oh, wicked smart.
I was excited that Nosferatu came out in time to watch for Gnome Christmas.
They tried to improve upon the original 1920s movie by adding dialogue,
This one was deader than a doorknob.
where most movies ask how. Madam Web managed to ask why.
I did not care for Madame Web.
Honestly, I think the one thing that would have fixed this movie is that if Timothy Chalamet had been Madam Web's Web. And the fifth Home Alone movie that came out this year, Wolverine and Deadpool.
Good personal friends of mine.
Talk about feeding pickles to your chihuahua.
I would even compare it to Hot Frosty.
At this point, I've seen this movie in 3 different timelines, and I must say ours is the second best.
Alright, let's go around the table here and let's each talk about something we'd like to see happen in this coming year.
Lots of money.
What about you, Ambassador? What do you hope to see this year?
Big Lotto.
Well, after our experience tonight here, I'm just hoping that TikTok gets banned.
I'm planning on heading to Italy to see some of these gladiator fights for myself.
Now I'd like to hear everyone's expectation, one thing that you expect to happen this year.
I'm pretty sure a volcano is going to erupt in Minnesota.
Horizon 3 releasing at the same time as a better game. You could read my opinion on the previous games in my book.
Thermonuclear war.
I'm predicting that this is the year that Jared Leto will get slapped at the Oscars.
Well, keeping all that in mind, I hope you're still alive to join us next year. This has been a special look at the year 2024. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year.
I hope everyone at home adopts this new holiday of Gnome Christmas. It's new, innovative, different.
And a happy Gnome Christmas to you!
Can someone finally tell me what this Gnome Christmas is?
Now, I'm not really sure that you know the meaning, the true meaning of Gnome Christmas.
Happy New Year.